Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Boris. Appreciate you joining me Friday morning, early. Let's see if we can
Morning.
get GCAD today for sure. All right, team. So, DXY has been in a bit of a confusing place, in my opinion. I was pretty excited to start the morning, but the DXY, I mean, it looks as if it's rejecting that weekly 50 MA. But in order for us to look at taking those cross pair shorts, we do need that DXY to pull up slightly higher, and I believe it may even have to push further through that weekly 50 MA for us to get those shorts, let's say on EU, GU, and AU. Nevertheless, we've seen it happen. Yes, we've seen it happen all week, to be fair. So here's the weekly 50 MA, here's price action. So if we can get that bullish pressure to come into the market and start pushing price higher on those lower time frames, all good stuff. And then that will set us in good stead for those short positions. With that said, that's 4 hour order block, excuse me, that's still very much so still intact. Price is failing to break above it. More so on that 4 hour time frame, failing to break and close above it is the important. So it's definitely still on the chart, and then looking for weakness to come from some of those high areas up here for good example. As we can see, most recent daily candles, we've not really done much on the DXY in terms of the index itself. However, those peaks and troughs on the DXY has definitely been enough for us to capitalize on a couple of positions. Let's say even GU yesterday, AU that I took yesterday, no, EU, sorry, and AU the day before. So it is enough. So don't pay too much attention to how far the DXY is moving. Just understand that it's in a nice 4 hour trading range. Don't get too attached to the fact that it's just going to reject the 4 hour order block. Yes, it will at some stage, in my opinion, but where I'm yet to decipher that position just yet. Up at these highs, there's a 15-minute order block there, but I'm not really I mean, I've got alerts and the session high, so I won't put any more colors on the chart. But there are certainly areas in the market we can look for price to look to gravitate towards and then reject even these highs, for example. There's no order block on the 15-minute time frame, but price will look to gravitate towards those highs, potentially peak above them and then drop below, just like we've seen yesterday, for example. If we're looking to take an easy sell position, just the fact that price came into this area here, we would have been caught off guard. So therefore, wait for price to approach that area, possibly wait for your confirmation, and that confirmation waiting will obviously give you a better chance at not getting tapped out of a position on a cross pair or even on US dollar CAD, for example. Wait for the confirmation first and foremost, and then we will go from there. So that's what I have on the DXY. Nothing too crazy. So we'll get to the good stuff. So GCAD, right? GCAD is in a great position using that weekly 50 MA, previous weekly candle close below that weekly 50 MA. So I'm expecting this current candle to have some beans within the liquidity above that weekly 50 MA. We're pretty much there. Daily order block refined, 4 hour order block price is just about approaching that area again, and then refine within that area we have that 15-minute order block. Again, that 15-minute order block, it is in a good place. You can understand why we are looking to sell from that area up at the highs. However, as you can see by this box I put here, reason for confirmation. If you're going to take a sell limit straight away, of course, that you're able to do so. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but my suggestion would be you have to look to cover those highs. And what would be best, particularly in my opinion, is if you just wait to see if price is going to push deeper into that area, allow your stop loss range to stay where it is. Well, your stop loss to stay where it is, for example, but of course you'll be reducing that range, and that will then give you more likelihood of being able to move to break even if we are to take that slightly more aggressively without waiting for a break of structure. So clearly on the 15 and the 4 minute, 4 hour time frame, we are very much so bullish into that area. That's normal as smart money concept traders. We understand that. So after higher highs, higher lows, etc., the best course of action would be to wait for a structure point on the 15-minute time frame to be broken, pull back into the area, 15-minute bearish candle, order block and look for a short. That's of course an option. However, based on what the other pairs are doing, we might elect to take that slightly more aggressively. I certainly will be looking to do that as it's a Friday. And as well as that, Well, there is an area above, but how far away is that area? I was hoping that I hadn't pre-done my charts to that degree, and hopefully there wasn't an area above. So 136 pips away would be my next sort of port of call of where I'd be looking to take a short. So if we look at the daily candle range to understand, is that even likely for today? So let's say that previous candle, that moved 87 pips. That was just about half of that. Current candles not even halfway towards doing that. So to be honest, it's gonna have to be a bit of a good day for pound CAD to I mean it looks like an average range to be honest. So in my opinion, it's quite unlikely that for price to move 87 pips is or roughly at that 90 pip mark that I'm seeing. For price to want to move to the upside, I don't think in today's play we will have that liquidity in the market based on previous daily candle ranges that we'd actually be able to get there. Not so much even find a rejection from it. So for that reason, I will be slightly more aggressive here, but not just from the order block now in terms of a limit. I mean aggressive in my entry, which means I may not or I will not particularly wait for this structure break to come back into the market. Of course, if it happens, then even better. It just gives me more reason to be more aggressive up at these highs. If it doesn't happen, then I'll just be waiting for my confirmation up at those areas, which really will just mean I'll be potentially just grabbing myself a better entry, looking for the imbalance in the opposite direction, and looking to manage that position. With GU in mind about my management yesterday, I still think it was the correct thing to do about management regarding going break even on that long position. However, what I'm inclined to do today is just wait to see if price will gravitate rather closer to the structure point on the 15-minute time frame before price is looking to make that move towards the upside, as opposing to the imbalance immediately in the opposite direction. That's just my thought process of the day. It's a Friday. I've got some profits to play with, so that'll be one that I'll be happy to take on the chin if I just get that wrong. But yesterday, missing out on roughly 6%, um, when you're in a position, makes you kind of want to amend a few bits and pieces to see how you're able to do slightly better in the markets. That's just normal, right? Considering you're in a position, you get tapped out break even, then it flies to 6%. So it's definitely one that I'm looking at. So GCAD, certainly in terms of the shorts, definitely favored. And then in the longs, we can't really ignore the longs too much. I mean, since Monday, we've just been pushing bullish the whole time. So with that said, I'll be looking for a long position if price just moves all the way down to these lows. Again, down to these lows, something to consider. Refine within that area. Of course, we've got that 15-minute order block. It's quite a large order block. So again, I'd be waiting for some confirmation there. But what I do like about the long is we're supported by all of the EMAs at the moment. Yesterday's candle closed bullish above that daily 50 EMA. For me, I can just about take the long as I've got range towards that daily order block where, of course, I'm looking for a price to reject to the downside, but supporting that long position, I have the EMA. So it's quite favorable, the longs as well. Just in case the short positions are missed, I believe that a long could be quite satisfactory. So I like the long position as well, more so even the shorts for good example. So that's GCAD for me. Let's see where we can go. In regards to that weekly candle as well, we can understand price may look to close below that weekly 50 MA, but dependent on what happens first. If we come to the lows first and foremost, and of course look for the reaction, we'd look to manage that position quite aggressively as a result of understanding that, well, actually price is likely to want to close below here. So manage that aggressively and then see where you lie. So that's GCAD for me. Got alerts everywhere on GCAD as well as the DXY. GJ, okay, GJ for me is looking all right. We took the short on it yesterday, just kind of hovered around, didn't do too much in all honesty. But Daily 50, or excuse me, weekly. So weekly, we rejected day, no, what am I talking about? We closed above that daily 50 EMA yesterday. So looking to pull back rejection back towards the highs. Then when we look to refine areas down, we've got a daily order block right down at these lows. However, I'm using the 4 hour time frame more so as a result of, again, just understanding that 4 hour time frame, currently high, high, higher low, higher high, just about created. But really, what we have here is a bit of an area in the market where price isn't really doing a lot. So it's certainly not a favorite GJ. But if price pulls up to these highs, and I'll definitely be looking for the short, you can understand why based on that 4 hour time frame. If we look to the whoops, if we look to the 4 hour, we can see that from this area in the market, we did create that push down to the lows that where price was finally able to break and close below these wicks. Therefore, if price gets to here, it's noted as my best shorting area. So I'll definitely be aggressive looking for those shorts up at these highs, refining that area down. 15-minute order block is right there. And just like on the previous pair discussed, here it is again. A reason to kind of wait a little bit because you can absolutely understand we've got Asia to fill up at these highs where we can see Asia on GJ fills quite nicely. If we look here, we've got Asia up the highs, filled the lows, filled the high of Asia, came back down. We filled the high of Asia to the left yesterday. This Asia range is filled. So Asia's are being filled. So my interpretation of that, if price comes up to these areas, the question is, well, am I going to be looking for an immediate short position from this order block, knowing that price could indeed fill Asia to the left? Or do I just wait to see if Asia's going to fill? And then we'll grab the liquidity that is always led above or below Asia, look for that bearish engulfing candle, start the process all over again. 15-minute order block, and off we go to the short. So I don't mind GJ shorts at all, quite like them to be honest. Although the daily 50 MA and the 4 hour 50 MA currently favoring the longs. With that said, longs are potentially an option as well. We've had that break of structure on the 15-minute time frame. I'll just keep it zoomed out like that so you can see it clear. We have that break of structure there. Where can I determine that break of structure has come from? Well, somewhere in this leg. And then it's for me to zoom in on that now and understand, well, where is that 15-minute order block for me to look to manipulate? So the only 15-minute order block that is available is this here refined right in at the equilibrium of that 4 hour order block. So for me, it's a good looking point of interest to look to take along from. So I'll bring that alert slightly lower and then I'll see if we can get that break up again to the highs, which will allow me to take that slightly more aggressively. Or the worst case scenario, if price comes straight back down to that area, then I'll look for my confirmation and look to take that position long. So that's GJ for me. Don't mind GJ at all. I think it's quite good in both directions, willing to take the managed risk on that today. AU today. AU. It was almost doing the business. We closed below that daily 50 EMA. More importantly, that structure bullish point on that daily time frame, and we've just retraced right back in that. But are we really surprised to see that? Not really. After a lower low, what are we expecting to see? A lower high, of course. And looking for a lower high on the daily time frame, we would probably look to close above that daily 50 MA. That's what we've done, and not now we're looking to gravitate back towards it potentially, looking to reject it. But I do believe, based on the daily time frame and structure, that this could indeed look to create that lower low leg extension. And then, of course, coming from the highs, weekly order block. That's why we're really looking for those short positions on AU. And then the 4 hour time frame that represents a nice looking 4 hour trend as well. Beautiful break of structure, of course. So after the break, just like on the daily, lower low, lower high. We're looking to capture that lower low leg extension, hopefully, and then manage it by the daily 50 EMA. But what I'd be inclined to do is see if I can hold that and see if we can have that trending back down to, or not back down, but back towards the opposing 4 hour order block where I'll be looking potentially for a long position today. So it's all looking good on AU. I like AU. When we refine the 4 hour order block down on AU, again, like all of the cross pairs thus far, all the pairs discussed so far, we've kind of got that session high. We've got an order block in the area, but it's just saying don't be too aggressive because of the areas that are available. Very, very, very much so expecting these highs to be attacked. I don't see them as triple tops or quadruple tops. I see them as areas of liquidity where the very innocent trader is simply going to be setting a sell limit, like a sell stop like that, or even a sell limit. So therefore, just wait for those liquidity positions to be grabbed. And yesterday we saw it quite nicely. I think it was on AU. We sat, or potentially US dollar CAD. I think we just sat patiently, saw price push up. It was almost textbook of what we were discussing. Saw price push up, continued to push up, gave that beautiful bearish move back down, had a bit of a retrace back into the 15-minute candle for an imbalance fill for a potential for a short position. So much of the same is what I'm expecting on AU, despite having an order block available. Of course, if price then starts to break these structure points first and then comes back, then I'm not so much expecting that anymore because price has now shown itself. However, from these areas, we haven't really done anything just yet. We haven't snapped any of the lows. Particularly after this move, I'd be expecting a lower low, lower high for that lower low continuation. We don't have that. Therefore, my first thought is wait for that. If we get the snap, then of course I'll be taking the trade from here after a bit of confirmation from that 15-minute order block. Got a good amount of confidence in that area. 4 hour 50 MA price is respecting it beautifully. It's good to see the 4 hour, well, all EMAs are really doing the business. That's why it's quite difficult to even trade against the DXY in terms of the DXY is looking bullish because it's just there at that weekly 50 MA. And of course, we understand and we see over and over again how those 50 EMAs perform, hence why we talk about them so much. So that's AU. Alerts galore as well on AU, just approaching that 15-minute order block. I have one with a snap of Asia if Asia is broken into London. And then after that snap retest, then that's something to consider, just like what I took yesterday on. But I can never remember my positions. What was it? GJ had a slight snap and retest, and EU had a snap and retest. So that's the positions that I do favor in terms of textbooks. So I'll be looking to see if we get that. If not, the second port of call. And of course, these session highs, that's why they're in the market, not to sell from immediately, but to look for confirmation or to anticipate that. So that is AU. You'll notice all of these are purple because they they'd all pretty much have my attention. And EU following on from AU. So much of the same, like like AU. However, we're a bit more of a distance away from that weekly order block. We're below the EMAs in terms of daily and 4 hours. So that's definitely good news. If we're looking to trend back up towards them, then reject them down to the downside. What we can say is most recent candles haven't actually trended back up to that daily 50 MA, so I'm not too worried about taking a position from this area, thinking that price may look to go up towards the daily. It hasn't done it this week, well, since last week. So why is it going to do it today? I'm just going to roll with the 4 hour time frame, which clearly is giving me more indication to look for the short than the daily time frame itself. And we're trending down into that daily order block. I like that we haven't tapped it yet, giving us reason to actually go down in towards it. So that's all good news as well. And then when we start to refine that area down, no 15-minute order block is what I couldn't see. Let me just double check myself. So that's not available. Yeah, no 15-minute order block up at these highs. But what I have noticed is a 5-minute order block. Now, again, very rarely that I'll look and highlight a 5-minute order block. It just shows to me that I need to look for confirmation coming out of that area. But what I'll be inclined to do as I'm using the 5-minute order block, still be aggressive in some way or another. But again, I am mindful of these highs. But yesterday we didn't tap into them. But what I am seeing now is something a little bit more that I don't like because it just means, well, double tops, triple tops, etc. All the innocent sellers are looking to do something along those lines. So why not just wait for what we saw yesterday? Push up, take the stops out, come straight back down, pull back up, and then look for the short. Nevertheless, if I do get a reaction from there, I will be in the market. However, what I'll be inclined to wait for, let's see the 5 minutes starts trending up like that into the 5-minute order block. I'll be happy to wait for a 5-minute shift, then look for the short. So that's me being aggressive as a result of using a 5 minute order block. I'll go down to the 5 minute time frame and see if I can find anything in terms of that break. If I don't get that, then for example, and I just get a beautiful bearish engulfing candle, then I'll start that process again, but on the 15-minute time frame, and then look for price to come back into that area for the short position down. So AU is a bit of a favorite, to be honest, and the reason why is simply, as I always say, one line would do it, and it's that as a result of seeing that clear break of structure from that area, I'd like price to come back up to that area. Hence why I've highlighted that 5 minute order block, because for whatever reason, from here, we have broken structure. So that's telling me liquidity lies in that area. Therefore, if price gets back to that area, post confirmation, I want to be on the back of that liquidity that's remaining there. And of course, 4 hour time frames looking beautiful in terms of a downtrend. Basics, lower low, lower high, lower low, back in for that lower high, lower low continuation. So if we can get a nice little push up into that area again, I think it makes all good sense to be slightly more aggressive there, because we're just getting those wicks thrown to the highs. If we're able to enter on one of those wicks and let price move off without us, then all good news. And again, I love the fact that we've got range down to that weekly 50 MA, which is decent looking position. Let's paint the picture for a good example. 10 to 15 pips on EU if you're able to use the max. Look at that, easy 1 to 3 to end the week out. So EU, I very much so like EU. So now to G, what else did I miss on EU? Would I take a long on EU? No, not yet. Have to wait for those absolute lows in the market. And the reason for not taking a long on EU is the fact that we've broken structure. If we failed to break structure, we actually broke up. So let's paint a completely different scenario. If we're wrong completely and the DXY just absolutely melts, and we'll get that break of structure, then I'd have to wait for price to pull back into an area before looking to go long. But with that said, if the DXY starts pushing bullish anyway, I am still going to have to expect that the DXY is going to reject that weekly 50 MA towards the downside. So the further it pushes up, it will only entice me more to expect more of a reaction short from it. So I probably will not be taking any long positions on the cross pairs today anyway, despite um, the DXY giving that sign of weakness if it does push slightly higher, and with the expectation that after the push we'll get the drop. I don't think the long positions are going to make too much sense. So we'll have to have a look about what's going on, because it is a bit confusing, to be honest, because if we're expecting the DXY to reject to the downside, that's weakness of the dollar, which means the cross pairs should actually start pushing higher. So although I've got one thought process, I've got something else in mind that actually, well, potentially the DXY could actually just start pushing a little bit higher before the rejection. As it starts to push higher, that would be us grabbing those short positions on the cross pairs. So we'll just have to have a look. The cross pair shorts look good, but the DXY isn't really supporting it much, in my opinion. Hence why GCAD just looks so good as a standalone pair, as well as GJ. So GU, what do we have with GU? So I've painted GU with a slightly different picture. As I've said, in case I'm completely wrong and the DXY does of course melt, then I'd like to be in a long position of some sort, potentially on a crossbar. So I've put the 4 hour order block in on GU just to seek to understand, is it worth it? So weekly time frame again. So we're definitely going against the thought process here in terms of weekly time frame, looking for the current weekly candle to close bearish below the weekly 50 MA. That's one thing. But if we are going to reject it to the downside, where are we looking? Well, we'll talk about that in a moment. Daily time frame, price is failing to break above that daily 50 MA. So price is definitely being capped towards the upside. So daily 50 MA is up here. So the thought process that I have at the moment is, well, if we can come down first and foremost into this session low, would I be interested in looking for a long position back up to most restrictive EMA, which could be the 4 hour 50 MA, and of course that daily 50 MA rejecting to the downside? Might be something to consider, particularly if we take a look at the DXY to see what it's doing. Now, with that said, all I have to work with at the moment is this 4 hour order block here that has indeed been mitigated, and a session low in the market. You guys know I like session lows and session highs because you can just see how they're manipulated. straight down, straight back up, down, and then lower time frame break, and off you go. So I don't mind GU longs really, but it depends what happens first because if we push up to the highs, first and foremost, reject the 4 hour 50 EMA and then come back down to the lows, my opinion is that would be the move to actually reject the weekly 50 EMA and close below it. So therefore, I wouldn't want to then take a long position straight away. However, if we come down first of all without tapping into this higher time frame point of interest, i.e. 4 hour 50 EMA, then I'd be inclined to trade up towards it, then would see the reaction. So that's my thought process. And that really stems from the fact we've been bullish all week, starting from where are we? Monday, around about here. So straight away, yeah, in the beginning of the week, this order block was placed in. We had that high created, higher low, just about a higher high as a result of closing above this area, higher low, expecting that higher high, but failing to do so as a result of that 4 hour 50 MA. So I'm definitely anticipating shorts in the market, but shorts in the market and gives us the anticipation that we're gonna have to expect bullishness coming out of the DXY. So the bullishness coming out of the DXY is going to be two ways. Either the DXY melts first and then gives us the push towards the upside, which then will give us the short position, or the DXY just pushes straight through that 50 EMA up towards the liquidity areas, up at the highs. That would be the bullish pressure coming out of the market on the DXY, which would drive the cross pairs down. So it is a bit technical, not it is a little bit confusing, but it's definitely something that we're able to manipulate for sure. So that's GU for me. And then US dollar CAD, US dollar CAD. So just based on basic price action and structure, US dollar CAD weekly 50 MA looking to reject it today. So I like the fact looking to reject it today is matching perfectly with the daily type, with the daily EMA closure as well. So that's all good news. However, in terms of looking for a short position, I don't really have any areas that I'm looking to refine at the moment. There's nothing on the daily. In fact, that's a lie. We've just approached a daily order block. So let me put that on because I missed that. Here's the daily. Wouldn't like to do that always because we're pretty low within that daily order block, but we'll proceed with what price is showing us. Weekly order block, daily order block, we're fine within that area, and we've had a rejection from it yesterday. So we've rejected the weekly 50 MA or rejected the order block, but nevertheless, we will keep the order block there to start building the bias up from that. So 4 hour time frame, again, very bullish, pretty much well from yesterday at least, or the on Wednesday. So coming past now this 4 hour order block as a result of price has just about closed above it. So I'm going to get rid of that and see if I can refine this daily order block down. Above it, probably the better area is a 4 hour order block there and also one here. So US dollar CAD, I mean, in general, I'm kind of clutching at straws to try and look for a short opportunity. So the best that I can do for a short opportunity at the moment, I can't just put a 15-minute I cannot just wait for a 15-minute bearish engulfing candle. That's not the reason for me to short unless it's clear session highs and lows out of the market, which this isn't. We are very much so bullish. Therefore, for me, in order to take a short, I'm going to need to see structure points broken and then look for a short position down after then that bearish engulfing candle or a 50-minute order block. In what capacity is created for me to take a short from. So because we're so bullish, I can't take a short at the moment. But with that said, I'll be happy to take a long. If DXY weakness comes out of the market, which we have no idea which way it's going to go first and foremost, but we're there anyway to anticipate the move. If the DXY turns weak, and then after the weakness, we'll of course anticipate the bullishness coming out. Then I see this as a very nice area to take a long from. So we may well miss the short. There's nothing to miss because there's nothing to short at the moment. But definitely in terms of the long position, I like that for a couple of reasons. I'll explain it just as a teaching point. So range market, we broke out of the range, made the higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, back down to where we look for the liquidity that was left behind in the range. Order block, 4 hour 50 MA, look towards the upside. Is the 4 hour 50 MA doing a good job? Absolutely, yes, it is, as it looks to trend on that 4 hour time frame. So I like the long position on US dollar CAD. So we'll just have to see if it plays out. And with that said, I better put some alerts coming in on the market here. And then if I'm able to get into a long any sooner, it would be a snap above the area. But again, can I locate any order blocks? Potentially one here. I need to ask myself, does that make sense to place that in? Not really. So I'll put it in the market anyway, and we can use that as confidence on another pair because I do see that as structure as a result of, let's say, price either made a high from this area, or if you take it more intricately, we've got higher high, higher low, higher high and low, higher high, pullback, bit of a rejection from there. So I wouldn't be looking to take a long from here, but I'll certainly be looking to understand if there is any confluence from that on any of the cross pairs, such as can I match that up from the DXY, for example, if price is going bullish off of this area in US dollar CAD, then potentially the DXY has found an area as well where it may well look to go long off. Let's say, for example, it could be this area here. We just have to play that by ear. Nothing too concrete. There's very good looking positions, but in terms of setup that have been created, not too much just yet. And finally, US dollar JPY. I don't mind UJ at all. Just like UCAD, I'd be inclined to take a long. There's no real reasons for me to take a short just yet, unless you've probably seen it up at these highs, best type of area. The reason why, well, if I zoom out, you can just about see it. Had an almighty drop from this area. Therefore, if price wants to come back, I am absolutely shorting from there. And I can be wrong, but if I'm wrong for a very long time before I can get another selling opportunity. So confirmation right there up at those highs with the best looking short position for me. And then in the immediacy, the long position is where I want to be. Also, just trading alongside what's really going on the range. After the range, we understand how range is manipulated. So if people are just buying the range and being completely blindsided by the range itself, we know exactly what happens. Look for the liquidity outside of the range. Here it is, where we're at 50-minute order block. That caused that last push up. And of course, when price comes back down, looking for that move in any case. And I like the fact it's just below, or it could be just above it in this element, just below, because the range builds the liquidity, will have price coming out of it, and then here are all the sensible buyers, in my opinion, looking for confirmation long. So I don't mind that long at all. Unfortunately, Asia range was filled because I did have a good look at an Asia range yesterday, hence this, but it has been filled. But in terms of Asia range today, we can only use that as a good confluence if we don't get price breaking out of that again. And then that would just suggest that potentially I'm wrong about the range. But until price really starts to break out of that range on the 4 hour time frame, I am still very much so range bound for process. So I like the longs. I wouldn't mind the shorts as well. But again, just have a look at the DXY to see what the DXY is doing. We've used it very well over the couple of weeks, in my opinion, looking to see how you guys are trading. And I love to see it that you're using the DXY as that full confluence because if the DXY doesn't move, it's very like, well, it's pretty much a dead cert that your crosspair isn't going to move either. So taking a position when the DXY is in the middle of nowhere is a little bit of a risk, in my opinion. It might be better just to wait for price to get to those good areas on the DXY and then you can be aggressive. You can write in your journal and say, well, the DXY was here, a position where I would take a short position from. US dollar CAD was up at the highs, or even GU was down at the lows. So expecting US dollar CAD weakness from it, excuse me, expecting DXY weakness from the highs, expecting GU strength from the lows. And then you can journal that to perfection. And no one really can ask you any questions about why you're looking to take a position. So that is everything that I've got, team. Sorry to be short and snappy, but I figured it's best that I get through this quicker, so you guys are then able to head straight to the charts and put it into action. So that's what I'm looking at today. I'm trading pretty much all day today as well, only golf in the evening, and then yeah, not much at all. So I will let you guys know as and when I see a position or as and when some alerts go off. An alert has gone off in the other room. So I'll be running there to see what I have missed in 5 minutes or so. Boris, thank you very much for joining me, my friend. I appreciate your attendance and as always, good luck today. Let's see if we can get GCAD. It's definitely the one, it's at the top. So it's definitely one I'm staring at. It's right at the top. So let's see what we can do, my friend. Take care.
Take care.
Bye bye, mate.